Just to review, we talked about the external events and internal or inner, I forget what we called it last week, but things happen externally to us, and then we always have thoughts occur inside our mind about the external events. And those external events last week, anybody remember what they were? I don't know if I put them on your sheet or not. Others, right? Yeah. What's another one?
Events?
Yeah, the external events.
Okay.
Yeah, others. I heard it over here.
Like death and stuff like that. Is that what you mean?
Satan.
Oh.
Yeah, other. Death would be under like other events. Culture. And God, right? External events, things that's outside of us that happen. We kind of, people, things, situations that occur, Satan's lies, Satan telling us one thing when it's actually another. We buy into it. God is certainly ordains events that happen in our life. And while He intends it for our good and for our sanctification, we may, and often do, internally think differently about it. And then there's the culture, and we spent a little time on that, about how the culture is constantly sending us messages, and that we have to make a decision about. Life comes at us hard. People, places, things become important to us. Our health, trauma occurs, Satan attacks, and we react, beginning with, what do I think about it? And that quite often leads then to a behavior. I isolate, I run away, I get mad, I get sad, something happens. Or I pray. Or I go see a trusted friend, I do something, I turn to the Word. It could be a lot of things. But it's always kind of like that, external and internal. Some folks, we touched on, are more resilient than others. Things just seem to slide off their back. That's more than likely a result of the way they've been made, the internal, the way their mind works, the way God has gifted them, where they are able to just let things roll off their back. It's also a factor of how they were brought up and the experiences they've had in their life. And they've learned from that when bad things occur, things will get better. They just they're able to go with the ebb and flow a little bit better. Good for them. Yeah, great. We need them. And then there's some of us who, if we're not careful, something on the outside happens, and if we're not careful, we'll overthink it or think it in a bad way. And it could, if it goes on long enough, lead to depression. And those folks I just mentioned, life is viewed through a pair of gray-colored glasses, and as they encounter events, they say to themselves, well, here we go again. Bad things always happen to me. Or their view of God and sovereignty, His sovereignty, is skewed, and they don't see how God's involved, or that God knows, or that God cares. God has forgotten me, or can't fix this. God won't fix this for me. God is punishing me. All internal thoughts that have they're irrational, they are sinful, they are not accurate. Some more examples. I think I brought up the idea of self-talk last week, the week before. I did. We've constantly got a dialogue going on in our brain. Constantly. We walk into a room and there is a fast, rapid dialogue about what you think about that room when you walk into it, or when the phone rings. The phone rings, you don't recognize the number. Some folks go, I'll get the voicemail later. Some folks go, that's bad news. Right away. We right away interpret things that come at us. It's an ongoing dialogue. Sally doesn't say hello to us at the grocery store. She must hate me. My car won't start in the morning. I'm irresponsible. Lose a big sale at work. Don't close that sale. I'm a failure. My pain is unbearable. I can't go on. I would rather die than go on. All thoughts we may have had at one time or another. Maybe not about the same circumstances, but the same thoughts. They hate me. They don't like me. They're thinking something about me. I'm irresponsible. I don't make good decisions. I'm not growing up. I've never gotten over this. I never solved that problem right. I'm a failure. I'd rather just quit. This is too hard. All part of that internal dialogue that eventually, always, leads to some kind of bad behavior. And so where's all this coming from? Where does, we kind of made this sound like science a little bit, external, internal, but there's something very biblical going on here. Proverbs 4:23. Someone get that? Jeremiah 17, verse 9, if someone looked that up. Matthew 12 and verse 34. And then Proverbs 21 and 2. I think those are on your sheet there, are they not? Good. Somebody just pick one out, look it up, and let's go through them. Proverbs 4:23. Where do these thoughts, what's going on down here? Stuff's always going to happen, but then stuff happens between the ears. What's going on? There's a very biblical answer to that. Someone got Proverbs 4:23.
Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life.
Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. But I think I got some of those words right.
You got it all.
Did I really?
Good job.
My immediate memory's working right now. The heart, the next one. Which is the next one? Jeremiah 17:9.
The human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is?
Who really knows how bad that heart is? Matthew 12 and 34.
You brutal vipers, how can you be evil? Speak what is good, for the mouth speaks out of that which fills the heart.
The mouth speaks from that which flows from the heart. And then finally, Proverbs 21:2.
Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the heart.
The heart. There's the theme. I know y'all got it right away. The heart is what's going on here. And let's just dive into that someday. There are these internal thoughts. Science spends a lot of time about how memories occur and why memories, something past painful events come to our mind, triggers all these different regions of the brain to come together. And I don't doubt that's true. But we do know, as we know what the Bible says, in the end, it all boils down to what's going on in your heart. That's what's out of the heart flows all this. The actions and the words we use and our thoughts flow out of our heart. Let's remember that our thoughts, what we believe about ourselves and the world around us, the Bible tells us they all arise from our heart. And it's our heart that is front and center before God. It's God looks at the heart. We may not always be conscious of being before God, but we are. We are constantly in front of God who's looking at our heart, and we are constantly deciding in the moment if we trust God or something else. Even if we are never depressed, never experienced depression, we still, that person, whoever you are, if you've never been depressed, you are still constantly deciding in your life, do I trust God? Will I do what He asked me to do? Do I believe God or not? We do make that decision every day many, many times a day. That's kind of sobering, isn't it? As all these things come at us, should I don't know, I don't want to sound self-righteous. Should I do this task today or not? You're making a decision about, it might seem mundane, it might seem boring, it might seem not consequential, but you are indeed making a heart decision. Maybe you should mow the yard. You go mow the yard, but it's a heart decision. No, I'm not going to mow the yard. It all comes out of the heart. The Bible tells us that. I think it was the verse Charlie read. Out of it flows the springs of life. So all these little decisions are heart decisions. Now I want to have a word of caution here. When we tee that idea up, that these internal thoughts that get out of whack, get skewed, become dark, they turn inside. As we ponder that, and then Rick's standing here saying, well, these are all heart decisions, and we're making a judgment about the heart. It's easy to think, well, I guess I'm just a bad Christian. I guess there's just something wrong with me. I guess I don't believe hard enough, or my faith is somehow weak, or I need to pray more, and all those may be true in and of themselves, but will quickly, as I confront you here about these internal thoughts being a heart issue, some of us immediately go, I'm not a good Christian, or I'm a weak Christian, I'm a faithless Christian. You get what I'm laying down here? Quickly we'll go there. Here comes Carmelo. And I tell you that the moment you have that, I'm a weak Christian, bad Christian, I'm not a Christian, that's when I want you to know, brother, sister, you are a Christian. This realization that I'm laying out here, that these thoughts... Hey, Camarello, there's a chair for you right there, buddy. I'm out of handouts, though. Somebody might... Oh, do I have one left? Thank you. Yeah. What's that?
Right on the wall, you know?
Yeah.
And see everybody come. Me.
I'm a good Christian.
Well played, sir. So, heart, immediately we can get to criticizing yourself, have negative self-talk. I'm a bad Christian, but I tell you, whoever here in this room, or our brothers and sisters in the congregation, you are a Christian. This realization is not a call to become hopeless, but to wake up and to take up the armor of God. Put it on and fight. There's a clear light. There's a big old alarm bell, military terms, the klaxon is going off saying, oh, you're a Christian, but you need to put on the armor of God and fight and do something. But it doesn't mean you're not a Christian, a bad Christian. No. So let's look at the heart. Let's see. I got a chart, some questions. Let me see.
You got a triangle.
I got a triangle next. Yeah, good. Thank you. I had this little thing over here, and I'm like, is this on the handout or not? I don't know. I put it on the handout. We ask a lot of questions, and I'm going to read them to you. We ask a lot of questions when we're stuck here on this internal dialogue. And whether we realize what we're asking or not, we're asking questions like this. Who do I love? Who do I love here? Do I love God or the world? I mean, no, I think I'm going to do this because I can't stand the thought of the criticism I'll get from my peers. No. Or we ask, our questions, our striving, this distress we'll experience when we're trying to sort out an external event. You know, who do I trust? Do I trust God? Or I trust other people when they give me advice, and their advice doesn't match what the Bible says. And I enter into some kind of conflict, internal dissonance. Well, who are you trusting? What is it that I worship? God or gods? Who will I serve? You know, those questions, and I think I've got some more later on, help us sort out what's going on in our heart. Asking those questions. Let's take a view of the heart. Let's look at that triangle. Was that just a wonderful looking piece of multimedia art right there? I had to work so hard on it. Oh, if we think about the heart like this, with actions at the top, remember behaviors. Then there's thoughts and feelings. And then our imagination, desires, and motives. Then our spiritual alliances at the bottom. I'm sure I didn't spell something right up here. Why do I think this is a halfway decent view for our discussions of the heart? The actions are things that the world sees. What that passage we heard from Matthew that Sam read up. Addressing the Pharisees, you vipers, the things they're doing. So behaviors, actions, behaviors, that's not a hard stretch there. The things the world sees, that we want the world to see, that we put out there for the world to see. Thoughts and feelings that arise as a reaction to external events. Thoughts and feelings that arise from external events. Imaginations, desires, motives, these are things that vie and try to have sway over you. I really want a new motorcycle. Not really, but I really want that yellow and black Mustang I saw in front of the Hertz dealer today. I imagine myself being able to drive down the road. Oh yeah, you know, I can just, the engine roaring, I want it. And then spiritual alliances. Who do I believe? I think boils down to that. Who do I believe? Who do I follow? And it's alliances. I might try to live in a world where I have spiritual alliances with the culture, with God, with me, where I'm at the middle. You know, there might be all manner of spiritual alliances, things that are swaying our value system and how we react to the world. There might be all manner of things. So when this part starts happening, thoughts and feelings, imaginations and desires start weighing in and working with each other. If I'm divided, if I'm kind of split down there and not clear on what I believe, the behaviors that come out of me, the things I'll do, may be skewed. They will be. And I believe this is where I and all of us and everybody else, this is where the battle's at. Who do I believe? Who do I worship? Those kinds of questions right there. Because quite often this is divided. We would say, well, of course, Rick, I believe in Lord Jesus Christ, Lordship of Christ. I believe that. And I believe you do believe it. But sometimes the culture or spouses or something, kind of twisted when we get, wait a minute. How do I reconcile this? I feel some dissonance. The heart is naturally twisted. What does Rick mean by that, somebody? The heart is naturally twisted.
It fell with everything else.
Back to Genesis 3, right? Right there. And that was not, that's not some sort of biblical fairy tale that Adam is the federal head and that somehow may have passed on to us. That's just not, that's truth, isn't it? That's in our DNA when you think about it. It's encoded in us. Our heart, that part of us that sorts out what we think and do and react and all that, is naturally twisted. We're already starting kind of handicapped a little bit, you know. We're already behind a little bit. Our heart is naturally twisted. And when that day occurs that we are regenerated and become a Christian, our allegiance changes. All right? I mean, there's a real fact that occurs there. We go from darkness to light, from death to life, right? I mean, some real things happen. But our heart, though it loves the Lord, still is capable of being twisted and make bad decisions or think thoughts that are not right. And let me put some ideas out there to you. The heart's naturally twisted. We are proud by nature. 2 Timothy 3:2.
The people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy.
That's good. Well, you got the word pride out there. Thank you. But very self-centered, very focused on self. Even the most beautiful brother or sister in our congregation has moments where we can become selfish and prideful. And it might be all internal. Everything looks good out here, but inside, there's something going on.
Amen.
Yeah. I know it firsthand, brother. You know? Questions about what we want. What do we think the world owes us? I want that car because I deserve that car. Or I deserve to be treated better. Look at me, you know? Because of my heart's telling me I am somebody. Or if I'm experiencing pain from a past painful event, if I'm upset by something that occurred to me at work, or by something said to me by my wonderful and beautiful wife. This is going out over the internet. I got that in there. For some people, alcohol and drugs become a way out because they can't handle the criticism. They're prideful. They can't either they can't handle the failure that's real, or they can't handle criticism, or they can't handle negative thinking about themselves. So they resort to alcohol and drugs to feel pleasure again, or to become fearless again, or to just kill the anxiety. Wealth brings power, and we know what the Scripture teaches about wealth and how we have to be careful with wealth. But the fact is, wealth does bring power. It brings security. It brings certain status. It brings safety. And it's very easy with wealth to become prideful. Our thoughts, fantasies, dreams, all have an element of pride and self-exaltation in them. I deserve this, look at me. I don't like what I feel. I don't like the way I don't like the way I feel. We've all felt that one. I don't like when God's putting a little bit of difficulty and frustration in our life, uncertainty in our life, and we get a little anxious about it, can't sleep at night. I think we've all felt that one. I don't like the way I feel. But if we turn and look, where is God in this? God's working on my life right now. Of course I don't like the way I feel, but I need to do something about that in my prayer closet. But that is very common, of course. I don't like the way I feel, so I need to change it to something else. I. Our hearts are naturally bent to be proud. Hence, Peter's warning about pride. 2 Corinthians, or not 2 Corinthians, 1 Peter, I believe it is, about pride and anxiety. Right? We talked about that one last week. Second one, we want to be autonomous. 1 Timothy 3:2. Our heart wants to be autonomous, I should say it. Anybody got that?
Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach.
Thank you. Self-controlled. That was 1 Timothy 3:2. Do you see my face right here? This is the face of, why did I pick that verse? Self-control must be a key word in there for me.
Continue with the second.
Continue with what?
It could be that he's meant to continue with what was said in 2 Timothy chapter 3.
It may be 2 Timothy 3:2 to just use that verse again. That may very well be what I meant to do, but didn't do.
Just a thought.
Well, I'm going to recover and keep on moving. We want to make the rules. Maybe that's where it's at. We want to make the rules rather than live by the rules. Here's where it's at. I want to run my family the way I want to run my family. I'd like that up.
Great recovery.
I want things to be the way I want them to be, and I'm going to do them my way. My heart's good. I love Jesus, but I'm going to live my life this way because I can't stand to be told what to do. Submitting to the lordship of Christ is just too hard. Doggone it. Jesus just wants to run every part of my life.
Yep.
The world should be the way I define it. The world should be this way or that way, where I can do this or do that or whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want. And it doesn't matter who gets in the way. Now that sounds real over the top, and it is. I purposely let people live that way. But quite often, this little internal dialogue, is we want to indulge our desires. Sometimes very harmfully so. We just want to think through them and enjoy them and play with them and imagine what it would be like to drive that black and yellow Mustang anywhere I want to go, whenever I want to go there. I can't afford that thing, but man, I sure wish I could. I could go into debt for it. What can I do? You know, I could do this. I could sell Kim's car. I could get it done. Because it's all about me. I want to indulge my desires. We covet. That happens right in between the ears. We get jealous. And it starts innocently enough. I want to take a nice vacation. What's wrong? I want to take a nice vacation. And we plan it. We get all the details ironed out. And we do it all. We have a great time. Yeah, man. Here's all my pictures. Here I am. I got the little hat on. And then we get home and feel down and sad. I'm not getting what I want. Or I didn't get enough of it. It's just all about how I feel. There's an example. Or I want to take a nice vacation, but I can't take a nice vacation. I have to work. Then something wrong with me. I'm a failure. How come I can't get a better job? Just all kinds, because I want to be a Thompson. I want to do what I want to do. Our needs and allegiances are off. Luke 22, verses 3 and 4.
Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them.
His allegiances were off, and I think another verse says Satan entered into him. Yet he was an apostle. I'm sure he was shaking his head up and down when Peter said, "You're the Christ." He's probably right there with him. Yep, you're the Christ. And yet Satan entered in him, and he went to the Pharisees and betrayed the Lord. We all want to be loved. And that can take us. Who are we turning to for love? I mean, true love. Love that's eternal. The love that's faithful. Who do we turn to? We want to be loved. And that's okay. We want that. I want to be loved. I want Heath to like me. But when we manipulate people to get love, or put on a facade to get love, or there's all kinds of dysfunctional behaviors we can do to get people to pay attention to us and love us, that can be rather damaging to me and you. That can affect families. I'll make you love me by making you depend upon me too much. Or with fear and abuse, because I must be respected, which I somehow link with love, right? Or we don't feel we're loved enough. We are asking, whether we consciously think it or not, who do we love? Who do we trust? Who do we believe? When we feel, I scribbled this in here and it looks profound. I'm impressed. I was being funny there, Heath. I promise. When we feel empty and let down, when we feel empty and let down by people, when our thought is, nobody loves me and I can't count on anybody, and if we don't begin lifting our eyes up as we have that thought, if we stay inward with that thought, nobody loves me, I can't count on anybody, everybody's turned away from me. If we stay looking inside at our heart that we know is twisted, that is a sign that we've put our allegiance in somewhere else other than God. Because we're not up. We're stuck looking in here. Which, if you think about Jeremiah, the broken cistern and the cisterns with the good water and the broken cistern with the bad water, if you keep looking in here, you're going to a broken cistern. You'll never get well drinking out of that one. Right? So these are examples, and there's underlying reasons, common reasons why we get depressed. But I tell you, and I believe and I tell you, they are all a matter of the heart. And the heart being out of step, out of tune, whatever metaphor you like, being twisted. So I got a list of questions there as we wrap it up. I want you to take them home. And ask yourself these questions and be real about it. Get out your journal. Get out your journal. Get out a piece of paper. Use this paper. And answer the questions. But be honest about it. I mean, I know the first one. What do you love? I love the Lord. I mean, I know what you're saying. I love the Lord. Okay, and I believe you do. I know you do. But how does it manifest itself? When are times that you haven't thought you've had thoughts that would betray that idea, when you've had behaviors that would betray that idea, that you really don't love the Lord. I'm not saying you don't love the Lord. I'm just saying your behaviors and your thoughts didn't really reflect that. What do you hate? Do you hate the right things? What do you want? What do you crave for? What do you long for? And some of those are fine. I long to be able to go on a cruise again with Kim. I can't wait to do that again. But is that all I'm going to think about? Is that getting in the way of what I do here today? Is that going to rob? Is that going to, if I don't get that, do that? If Carnival Cruises never operates again, am I going to just dwell on that and become obsessed with that thought and be unavailable to anyone else? I'm just going to be so consumed with, I can't do what I want to do. Answer these questions and think about it. Answer them honestly. I like this one in the middle. What defines success or failure for you? What defines success? Be a lot of good answers there. I encourage you to take that home like homework and answer. And then, here's why. Depression unveils the heart. And these questions are aimed at unveiling what's in your heart. Depression, suffering, makes what is hidden become evident. Depression unveils our heart. Depression, which is suffering, makes what is hidden in our heart become evident. So consider 1 Peter 1:6 this way. That in suffering we grow. We want to grow. I know we want to grow. Because I know you folks here, I know you're Christians, and now we're wired that way in a very real way, that we want to grow and become like Christ, be conformed to His image. And one day we all shall. And we desire it. We groan. We want it. So and God uses the crucible of suffering so we may rejoice when we suffer. That's the only way that verse makes sense. Is there is something coming out of that when we suffer, when we have depression. Something good is going to come out of this. So when Peter writes this, I want you to rejoice. In this year rejoice. Though now for a little while, if necessary, you've been grieved by various trials. Your heart's getting worked. So do things to unveil your heart. And I gave you the questions there, answer them, do them at home. Any questions, comments, thoughts, ideas?
Rick, as you look at that triangle, I guess you use the triangle because the real basis or the everything builds going up as well, right? Because if you have a foundation of the spiritual alliance, then is that where you're going next?
That's kind of the way, I'll be honest, I got that out of the book. And that's exactly, Bob, exactly what the author's trying to convey. That this, if your spiritual allegiance is divided or in the wrong place, then our imaginations, desires, and motives, our thoughts and feelings will be off, and our actions, either what we think, further think, or what we do, will be off. On the other hand, we can come in the other way. External things happen, and that self-dialogue kicks in, and we have thoughts and feelings about what it is that happened. Do they match my imaginations, desires, and motives? And as I work my way through that, if this is divided or not firmly grounded in Scripture, then when it goes back the other way, you'll get a better result.
I was asking to commend you for it because when I looked at that, I said, it's a picture of what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7. You know, that we concluded the Sermon on the Mount. So those that would hear His word and do it are like a man to build his house on a rock.
Right.
When the rains came, the house stood. But a person that hears His word and does not do it, so this mixed up spiritual alliance. He said when the rains came, the floods came, the house collapsed.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. That drives it home even better.
I was just commending you for that
Appreciate that.
illustration.
I will accept that on behalf of Edward T. Welch.